Hi. Sorry, I don't hear anything. Okay, welcome everyone. So I'm very happy to be with you today. This is a huge and amazing honor to host this amazing lineup we have today for the launch of the Women for Change campaign, our first Women for Change campaign. I'd like to very welcome, first of all, Lovelda Vincenzi, who will guide us through this journey together for a little bit more of than 1 hour. Hi, Lovelda.
Hello, so wonderful to be here for such a great initiative.
Yeah, good to see you, Lovelda.
Always a pleasure to be here supporting Change Now and all the initiatives that you've got. And you know I am totally 100% behind anything that's a women's initiative.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for being with us to guide us through all these amazing profiles that we've gathered today. So yeah, just very quickly, one quick minute just to put the framework of what happened and why we are here all together today is that at Change Now we have a mission which is to accelerate all the change makers and all the solutions for the planet today. And a lot of them we've noticed are amazing solutions that are women-led solutions. And a lot of times those women-led solutions don't have the same support as many other solutions. And so we said, okay, this is really something we want to push forward to help all the change makers, whatever their gender, whatever their origins, whatever they are doing and topic they are tackling. And so we said, okay, we have to launch this Women for Change campaign and showcase the most inspiring projects and profiles of women acting for the planet. And so, Lovelda, I will just leave it to you, but really quickly, we know each other for pretty well 3 years now. You've been one of our first MCs at Change Now. So I'll leave it to you, and thank you very much again to be here with us.
Thanks a lot, Santiago, and what an incredible initiative to have a campaign that's all about the ecosystem of women who are changing the world to make the next decade and beyond so much better. So today it's all a celebration of those, both their personal and professional commitment to challenging the established order and proposing brand new models. And who better to kick us off today than the Managing Director of the Women's Forum for the Economy and Society, the world's leading platform to promote women's voices and vision, Chiara, Corazza. Welcome.
Thank you, Lovelda. What a great introduction. Yes, I'm really so delighted to be with you because this initiative is amazing. And I really would like to tell you how much I would like to support as much as personally and with the community of the Women's Forum, this essential campaign for Women for Change now, because now is the momentum. I really would like to highlight the fact that we are no more in the past. We have to move forward. Once upon a time, you remember, it was last year, in 2020, there was only 52% of women active in the workforce and representing only 34% of the growth. There were 22% of women active only behind the algorithm with the risk to create a dangerous word. There were only 19 Nobel Prize in Science among the 630 men Nobel Prize since the beginning in science. Is it possible to continue like that? Tell me.
No, absolutely not.
That was the word of yesterday, the past. We are active all in climate change. Hindou knows what we're talking about. Once upon a time, women represented 80% of the refugees of climate change. and women died 14 times more than men. And you know what? There was only 6% of ministers of environment worldwide, and there were only 25 mayors in the biggest 300 metropolis in the world. Can we continue like that?
Not in a world I live in, Chiara, not in a world I live in.
This is, but we have now a vision. We have an opportunity. We have a big ambition for the future. The future is now. It's really now, and that's why you are there, because you want to change things now. There's a sense of urgency. And you know why? Because this horrible triple crisis, social, economic, and health sanitary crisis, has proven how women were everywhere on the five front. They were capable to lead states. And when women lead states, we saw they'd manage it better. They weren't at the head of the central banks, and we saw how they were able to take the right decision. They were investing in a more performant and more ethic way, and it worked. They were also, of course, taking care of the most vulnerable each day, each night, and they did it. We did it. And we prove to the society that the society needs us. We don't need the society. We are capable. We are not asking for them. We are not asking support. We are bringing a contribution. We are not victims. We are change makers, as you are. We are there because we know that we are needed by the economy, by the society, to make the world that we need, that we want for all, not for women, not against men. Men, Santiago, and women together. Otherwise, we'll go nowhere. Then what I want to propose you, do we really want the word of yesterday? It was not a fairy tale. Do we want a word created and done by men again and left behind and then say, oh, hello, you forgot us? No, we want really to step forward, not to go back to middle age. And what I propose to you is to unite purpose with power for a 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧 for all. 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧, it's not a word that I invented. 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧 is a very meaningful word. It means women at the heart of the economy, women as stakeholders, women as decision makers, women who innovate, who create, who advance, women who are at the table of negotiation, women who decide, women who define the priorities, who design the jobs of the future, where we are going, and how we can do it. You know, I have also an idea. It's very simple. To define 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧. You know, we are not asking to have a part of a pie, even not the half of a pie. We want to put the ingredients in a pie, because if a man puts chocolate and I put vanilla, the pie will be more tasty and bigger and larger for the benefit of all. This is the 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧. It's inclusive 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧. It's exactly what I mean. It's to put women where they deserve to be able to define where we are going to go. And this is the right moment, because you have to reinvent the system. We cannot live no more in the world of yesterday. And this 𝗍𝗱𝗄𝗧 is really, I mean, an ambition, a vision, and we really need you. Oh, I mean, we have to go do it all together. And I really would like to highlight the importance of what you're doing, because you're active, especially in maybe the most important field, climate change. I mean, climate change, you know, girls, when we ask the girls what they want to do as a career, they say, we want to work for purpose. We want to have a socially positive impact. 72% of girls said that. And before, in my generation, because I have not the privilege to be young girls as you are, what we wanted to do, we wanted to be teachers, to transmit. We wanted to be nurse, to take care. And now, if we want to take care, we have to be those who invent the robot who will replace the nurse. We have to be those who invent the mock who will transmit information. Then we have to have the same skills, tools, opportunities, assets, and man. That means be active in the jobs where we can transform the world. And this is especially linked with climate change. I really invite you all with your children to incite them to choose STEM education, because in STEM education, you will have the capacity to be there to decide if you want to do the energy transition. Why we have just 6% of women CEOs worldwide, especially in the technical industries. Before we were just saying, talking about Elizabeth Moreno. Elizabeth Moreno also says, including at last Women's Forum, talent has no gender. But if the talents, women talents, are not there where we can decide, they're not the engineers who decide where to build the bridge or where to make the ecological transition, we will always be left behind. You know what does a general when he wants to fight against climate? He takes all the people, all the talents, because he wants to win the battle. But we left half of the people aside to win the battle against, the fight against climate. I mean, we have to be there where we want to be there and have the choice. Then I really encourage you. I really want to just to say, bravo what you're doing. Bravo this young, inspiring, wonderful women that are leading by example, that are giving invite to the others. Do what you believe to do and continue like that. And you will be always followed and supported by the Women's Forum, by myself personally, of course, but by the Women's Forum community all around the world. Then go there, share, and engage to have the right impact. And again, congratulations for these initiatives, and wish you a lot of success.
Thank you so much. I mean, you did such a beautiful job of really surmising the importance of the work that's being done at the moment. And this campaign, Women for Change, where we're looking for 15 women who will shape the decade right now, of which we are going to be talking to 3 of them right this moment. So Chiara, thank you so much for your share right then, because it's so important and such a beautiful summation of what we're up to. So up next, I've got 3 incredible women who are icons for Women for Change. Firstly, I've got Hindou Ibrahim, who's a geographer and activist, and advocates for the inclusion of Indigenous people in a world where global movement to fight climate change. We've also got Clover Hagan, who's a climate activist and CEO of Force for Nature. She's worked with the Impossible Foods founder, Pat O'Brien, to develop the National Youth Strategy prior to launching Force for Nature to mobilize emerging generations of leaders. And last but absolutely not least, we've got Jean Gueux, who is the CEO of Konexio, which has trained over 1,300 learners and given more than 70,000 hours of courses with a positive exit rate in employment, entrepreneurship, and a return to school of 72% the 6 months following their training. Ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm really keen, actually, I've given a very high level overview of what it is that you all do, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about the positive initiatives that you're running. Hindou, would you like to start first?
Thank you. Yes, Lovelda. Firstly, I'm very excited about this initiative, and I'm so happy to be with all of you ladies, the wonderful ladies around the screen and also with me here in the panels. So as Chiara said, we are the one who are doers. We are the one who are change makers. So we need to make all this change. I wanted to share with you a little history about what women can do, how the power of women can be seen, even if they do not have PhDs, even if they are just living without the clean water to drink. So I am coming from Embororo pastoralist communities. And, you know, my people depend from the rainfall. So from my grandmom to my mom and to all the girls, when you have 3 years old, so you already have a lot of knowledge without going to school. The knowledge that you have are coming from the nature that we are living and running around it. So I used to go just when I was very child around the chickens. And after you run after the chickens, you have the goats. After the goats, you have the sheep. After the sheep, then you have the cattle. So all the level of the animals that as women or as little girls that you go through it, you go through a special knowledge. And those knowledge are completely added by what your grandma can tell you when just you wake up in the morning. She can tell you how you can use those little animals who do not talk, or little insects who do not talk, or the trees that around you, how you can use them and change your nature, and understand the needs and understand how you can manage it for the sustainability, and how you can manage it with your brother who is there. And really what Chiara said, I mean, we women, we do not work alone. If you do something, you always do it for man. That's the man have to understand. When they do things, maybe they are much ego, but we do it in a collective way. So I grow up in this kind of culture. And when I grow up, I learn a lot from my grandma and from my mom, who get over her generation because she sent us to school as young girls. And that helped me to be a change maker to my communities who didn't get the chance to go to school and who can fight for the environmental change, because when the rain do not come, the women have to go fight the food for the children, for the old peoples. And that's how we learn and what we learn to live in a sustainable way. And now I'm using that to make it as a power at the international level to say you cannot leave the woman behind and you cannot leave the community behind. You have to turn and take the decision for us, but with us first.
Love it. We have to take the decision with people first, with women, with families, with those of Indigenous women from Indigenous tribes in particular. Clover, I'd love to hear from you. Force of Nature. I love the name of the organization in and of itself. It's all about emerging generations of leaders. What sort of impact have you had in, I mean, I know you started in 2019. What was the driving force for that, and what kind of impact have you been having so far?
Thank you. And first up, just wanted to say, echoing Hindou's message, absolute privilege to be joining everyone here, dealing with a fair amount of imposter syndrome, but I'm sure we'll make it through. Yeah, so by way of introduction, I'm a 21-year-old climate activist and the founder and executive director of Force of Nature. I've been working in the climate space since I was about 11 years old. So I grew up in Australia's tropical North Queensland, fishing frogs out of the toilet and dodging snakes that hung from the ceiling. So I spent more time outside than in. And my real catalyst moment was when I started watching documentaries like The Cove, An Inconvenient Truth, and Food Inc. And I was filled with despair at what we were doing to our planet, what we were doing to ourselves. And moreover, I was filled with a real curiosity as to why the adults in my life were so good at pretending that these issues didn't exist, whether that was the lack of conversation around the climate crisis at the dinner table, or not learning about it in school, certainly not hearing about it in media, or from any Australian politician. So I became really, really fascinated by the kind of psychology of agency and what it is about big, overwhelming challenges, whether that's climate change or gender inequity, that keep us feeling really small and that keep us feeling disempowered to take action. So that's really what has motivated my work to this date, from working at Impossible Foods, as you mentioned, to working on triple bottom line theory, thinking about the future of business, and most recently starting Force of Nature. So we work with students in over 50 countries to really step up rather than shut down in the face of the climate crisis. And everything that we do is around cultivating a mindset of agency and determination and resilience. We also work with business leaders and decision makers to create spaces where young people feel really part of the decision-making process, you know, not just given lip service. And one of the really interesting reflections from a gender perspective is that I would say 90% of our students are women, young women who are on the front lines, young women who are campaigners. And so we have this incredible network of girls who are growing into women who don't feel limited because of their gender. And from my personal experience, I know that I grew up in a bubble of privilege within a family that never made me feel that I was somehow less than because of my gender. And when I moved to Indonesia and through my lived experience, I became aware that that was not the reality for lots of young girls around the world. And there were very simple barriers as simple as a school uniform, a $10 school uniform that was keeping young girls from getting the kind of education that I had the privilege of growing up. So really everything that we do is mobilizing mindsets for action and critically looking at the intersectionality of the climate crisis and social justice, and appreciating that we will never deliver fair and equitable societies without looking after nature. And equally, we will not deliver any climate solutions if we allow gender inequity and women to be divorced from the conversation. As Chiara touched on, women are not just disproportionately impacted economically, socially, and health-wise by the climate crisis and environmental changes. But women and girls are also one of the most effective solutions that we have to the climate crisis. Empowering women through education, through reproductive rights, ensuring that women have a seat at the decision-making table. I was really shocked to find out recently that as part of the COP26 decision-making process in the UK, there was not a single woman on the board of leadership. We need to leave that kind of thinking and that inequality in the past, because we won't deliver the solutions to any of these overwhelming challenges without ensuring equal representation across the board.
100% agree. I don't know where your imposter syndromes come from at all, because the way you just articulated the work that you're doing and the need for the work that you're doing is absolutely exceptional. And last but not least, Jean, can you tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing? I mean, you're having incredible impacts already. 70,000 hours of courses. That's a lot.
Thanks so much. And I think I just want to echo the thoughts of others. Obviously, you guys have really amazing initiatives, all, different parts of the world. And I think that's also what we need. I think echoing the theme of this talk, which is also to think about globally, where are we heading? And so I think maybe to bring it a little bit further into like why I started Konexio in the beginning, and the work we have today was that, on one hand, actually, we're based in France. We actually started off as a researcher. So kind of nothing to do with entrepreneurship or wanting to start my own organization. And I was working with migrant and refugee populations at the time on the ground and realizing, when we were talking back in 2015 about another crisis, that a lot of the things that were happening on the ground were more related to maybe providing frontline service. But I kept hearing stories again and again and again of individuals who told me, that's great, that I have shelter, I have a roof over my head, but I don't have a network. I just don't know how to become part of society. And I want to do that on my own terms. And on the other hand, I think for me, a very personal side to my own journey where, I grew up in the US, but I was born in China. And I saw also firsthand the struggles of my parents as immigrant parents, as well, not being able to pick up a phone and, because they were afraid, they didn't understand what was said at the other end. And I think being able to understand that as the world is developing, we're going to be increasingly globalized. We're going to be increasingly diverse. There's so much richness to that, but sometimes for those who are not included in society, there can be horrendous barriers socially, economically as well. And so that's kind of the mission behind Konexio today. We are an organization that promotes upskilling for vulnerable populations. We have training courses that really go from the basic building blocks. When we talk about digital literacy, people are often surprised to know the number of people that are digitally excluded. To give you an idea of the size of the problem, we're at about 13 million people in France that are digitally excluded. That's 1 in 5 people. In Europe, we're at 170 million across the EU countries of working age, so 18 to 64, in terms of individuals that do not have the proper digital skills to go towards the labor market. And these are, interestingly enough, can be from the basics of the youth we work with that come to our centers who are really good on their smartphone, on Snapchat and TikTok, but they don't know how to send a CV. They don't know how to navigate the unemployment insurance platform. They don't have a LinkedIn profile, things that are really important in today's age to really be able to be part of society. And then we also have a lot more advanced training tracks to get people into the tech space, given we see there's huge opportunity, but that opportunity also needs to be given to individuals and really let them be able to take matters into their own hands.
Wow, the work you ladies are all doing is just absolutely exceptional. And you you're a not just a force for good, you're also an inspiration for other women who perhaps have something that they're seeing in injustice, and they're really thinking, geez, there's probably something that needs to be done about this. So kind of really quickly, in about a sentence or two each, because I'm also just really conscious of time, I'd love to hear from each of you. What would you say to a woman who's listening to this, and perhaps they've been somewhat inspired by what it is that you've said today, what you've shared, the impact that you're having, and they're possibly feeling like, I don't know where to start. Like, how do I even start this? Is the world even going to listen to me? Based upon your experience, Hindou, what would you suggest what would be your word of wisdom or words of wisdom to these ladies?
I think what I can tell to all the participants that listening, especially the females, when you talk harder, talk for all, talk for those who are left behind, talk by having in your memory that there are indigenous peoples there, there are local communities there, there are women who do not know maybe about electricity or about internet, but they exist. They do something. So talk for them, make the way easy for them. And when there is any woman that is standing up, support her, because we need to support each other if we do not support ourselves. So no one can support us, no one can push us. And that's also why I like the Women Forum that led by Chiara. I'm always saying yes, because I say if women doing something, we have to stand together in support. If we support as much, we have a big numbers, we can make a big voice. And finally, if you have any opportunity to fund any of the activities, there is no small activities. Fund these who can impact girls, impact women's life, because they can do a long term. As also Chiara said, if there is a president woman, she can do over for all of us. If there is a CEO woman, if there is an organization, so we are thinking for the society. That's really my message for you. But don't forget the indigenous women who are really left behind, marginalized because she's woman, because she's indigenous, because she didn't went to school, because, but she is a doer. She's an innovator. She has a lot to add in our life. So let us talk for her and talk not on behalf of her. Let her sit in the tables and make all the contributions. Thank you.
Really great reminder, because I think sometimes we can forget how impactful our voices can be, like just how impactful it is that we speak up and say something. And if nothing else, we have the ability, if we can't find the courage within ourselves or the capacity right now to be able to start initiatives as you have, that we do have the ability, many of us, to be able to contribute towards initiatives that are having an impact on the world at large. Clover, what about you? What would you say to women who are listening who've seen things? I mean, you started very young, age 21, to be out having the impact that you've had. And often people at your age might say, I'm a bit too young. Who's going to listen to me? But they're listening to you, girl. So what would you say? What would you say to others who might be considering things, and perhaps maybe age was the thing that was getting in their way?
That's an awesome question. And for a long time, I had to deal with that kind of imposter syndrome because of my age. And I tried to almost suppress how young I was, because I felt that somehow that disqualified me from having a place in the conversation. And then I realized that it was in fact my youthfulness, my energy, my determination, all of the things that make me young and position me to imagine a better world and an alternative to the status quo. Those were the very reasons why I had a right to be in that space. And my advice to anyone listening in would be to really tune into your emotions. I think we're all used to those kind of stereotypes of women being like really emotional. And that was one of the things that I had to challenge within myself, because I somehow thought that the depth of emotion that I felt around the problems, climate change, ecological crisis, gender inequity, I thought that depth of emotion was somehow a weakness, and like I was less than because I was so affected by what was happening in the world. And yet I realized that emotion was in fact my superpower. And we live in a society that tells us there is such thing as good emotions and bad emotions. And the grief and anxiety and sadness are things that we should run away from. Yet having run away from them is the reason why we're facing these crises, right? As a society, we've gotten very good at numbing ourselves to just how bad this problem is and how enormous the challenge is. So I would encourage you to not disallow any of those feelings. And to your point around anyone who's feeling overwhelmed about where do I really start, those emotions are the best compass that you have to identify the problem that you should be taking on. So when you experience that sense of injustice, or to Hindou's point, if you feel really frustrated that someone's not in the room, or you see some kind of an inequality, and that sparks your anger, that sparks your sadness, your grief, don't submerge it, don't push it under the rug. That is your superpower. And by focusing on how you can uniquely show up to solve that problem with the skills and talents and gifts that each and every one of us has, you can really find your power.
So beautifully said. It's something I tell a lot of the women I work with quite frequently as well. It's often that thing that makes us the most insecure that is exactly our superpower. You know, in your case, it's your youth. The thing where you're thinking nobody's going to listen to me because, you know, I'm so young. Well, it's because I'm young that people are going to listen. It's because you're older that people are going to listen. It's because you've got that disability that people are going to listen. Whatever that thing is that you think might be a hurdle, I love that reminder that it's because of that is the very reason why you're the best person to speak up. And last but absolutely not least, Jean, what would you say as well to the same question in terms of what would be your words of wisdom to women who've been listening to the inspiring conversation so far, and maybe it's piqued their interest in the back of their head somewhere, they're thinking that could be me if only. You know, what would you say that might just help those ladies to step forward as well and be a voice of change?
Yeah. So I think following up on both Hindou and Clover, I think two things that come to mind. One is that, and I'm just taking also from my personal experience, sometimes you just have so many barriers that you put upon yourself that, oh, it's not good enough. And I think when I was starting out in France as an American, I think in the beginning it was basic barriers, like people couldn't understand my French, you know, and people kind of made fun of my accent when I spoke, like very, very real things in the beginning that make you doubt yourself, make you doubt the project, make you doubt why you came here. And I think maybe back to also Clover's point, it's about leaning into your strengths and your differences, because I think by doing things that were different and non-conventional, that surprised people, but I was also able to broker up partnerships that way. So being a little bit different and being, you know, someone, at least in the French tech ecosystem, that might look a little bit different, you know, not maybe the standard stereotype you might expect, I think also helped. And I think so leaning into the uniqueness of what you are and realizing that you're probably the best person positioned for the idea that you have, because you understand the idea. Maybe there's, you know, but I think sometimes we put too much barriers on ourselves to think that because of this reason or that we're not ready, or we're just not the best person to do it. And my answer is like, really have faith in yourself that you are the person and you should be the change that you want to see. And finally, kind of just to, how do you get started? This is maybe kind of answering the question in the other way, in the sense that I have a phrase I actually tell other entrepreneurs today is start before you're ready. I think we have a sense to think that I'm going to line all my ducks in a row, do all of these things, and then I will finally launch. And then when you get to that point, you realize this is missing, that you give yourself excuses. And I think in a startup atmosphere, what I've learned is that at least you have to have the basic minimum things, you know, kind of down. But once you have that, you should start, because the first thing that you'll sort out, you know, whether that's a program or a product, is not going to be the, you know, the best, the perfect version. It needs to be worked on and needs to be improved over time. And it's getting it out, you know, faster, sooner, that's going to make it all the more powerful.
What a beautiful way to end this part of the conversation. Start before you're ready. Because the truth is, when I think about it, the problems that you ladies are solving aren't getting smaller right now. We don't need fewer people on it. We need more people on these big global challenges. It's not going to happen with just one voice. The more people we can get behind an issue, the bigger the impact is going to be. And because it's not getting any smaller, we can't afford for you to wait, ladies. So if you've been listening to this point, listening to these three inspiring, incredible ladies, and you've got a similar sort of idea in your head of something that you want to get on with, then I'd very much encourage you to do so. Thank you so much to our three guests today, Hindou, Clover, and Jean. We really appreciate your contribution, and congratulations on the impact that you're having today, and being a beacon of light for others of us out there to look up to. Couldn't do it without you. Up next, we're moving on to a whole new section now. So up next, we have a series of lightning talks, which are brought to you on behalf of 𝗪𝗪𝗏 Women's Initiative, who've partnered with Change Now to bring this Women for Change program together. Hosting this next segment of the program, we have crikey, my tongue is so twisted today. So hosting the next section of the program, we have a CWI coach, so a change, 𝗪𝗪𝗏 Women's Initiative change coach, international management consultant for over 25 years, and a professional experience in Europe and Africa. She is the founder of and managing director of Avandis Consulting, Dr. Anino. Hello, welcome. Over to you for the next section.
Thank you, Lovelda, for the wonderful introduction. And really, it's a delight to be here. And as you say, we moved to something a little bit different. It's been amazing listening to Chiara, to Clover, to Jean, and of course to Hindou, who's a dear sister from Davos. Now, we're moving over now to the world of business, because economic empowerment is just as key and as important as anything that women can be doing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session. And we will be taking questions, so do put in those questions, and we'll try to answer as many of them as we can after the presentations. My name is Anino Emuwa. And as Lovelda has told you, I'm the founder of Avandis Consulting, a strategy and financial advisory firm in France. I am also a 𝗪𝗪𝗏 Women's Initiatives coach, and I am delighted, of course, to be with our community and to have these amazing women who are women of impact, who will present some of their ventures. Not only are these ventures economically sustainable, but they are making change, and they are actually addressing some of the most intractable development issues in the world. You will hear from these amazing women in a minute. And I'd like to explain a little bit about what 𝗪𝗪𝗏 Women's Initiative is about. It is a global program that supports women entrepreneurs leading early-stage impact-driven businesses. Each edition, we select 24 fellows from around the world and provide them with financial, social, human capital support. Since 2006, we have supported over 240 women impact entrepreneurs from 60 different countries. We would love to have you to join in the conversation, and you could do that through the chat. I've been monitoring the chat and seeing there's quite a lot of discussion. Do tell us where you're from, do ask questions, and we'll try to get to some of those. Thank you. Now, our women entrepreneurs here today come from around the world, from Cameroon, from Mexico, from Denmark, from Egypt, from Sweden, and they're working in industries as diverse as agriculture, fintech, education, and healthcare. Yes, they come from different countries, but they are all doing something in common, and that is they have each built a business with impact at its core. Today, we will invite each of them to take 4 minutes to share about her company and about her entrepreneurial journey. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first founder today to share her story. Manka is our 2019 fellow, and I had the great pleasure of being Manka's coach then. Her company, Grassland Cameroon, improves farmer productivity by increasing access to finance for local African farmers, connecting them to high-value buyers across various market segments. In that way, the farmers, not only do they get a higher income, but also they create a higher value or energetic calorific a maize product that is better for the population. Over to you, Manka.
Thank you so much, Anino. I'll try to make sure I earn the honor of being on such a grand stage. It's always a pleasure to see you and connect with everyone else. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. While I didn't grow up in farming or in agriculture, I was always very aware of the importance of agriculture for my family's livelihood. You see, my grandmother was a farmer her whole life, and from time to time, she still insists that I take her to the farms. But given her age right now, that's not very likely. Over 500,000 farmers across the globe have less than 2 acres of land and produce about 80% of the world's food. But unfortunately, most of them are still living in poverty. Cameroon, where I operate, has about 13 million farmers, and a majority of them are women with limited access to finance or collateral to invest in farming at a commercial level. So at Grassland, we enhance local value chains by improving farmer productivity and increasing access to finance for rural farmers. We initially started with maize, but we've now also added soybean to the crops that we operate in. And we connect our farmers to high value buyers. How do we provide this financing? So unlike microfinance banks, we provide financing in the form of fertilizer, seeds, and access to machinery. That way, we're sure that whatever resources are provided to the farmers are used directly on the farms. We also de-risk this unsecured credit by coupling it with farm monitoring services and ensuring that the grain is growing as it should. We train the farmers on better agricultural practices. And at harvest, our farmers reimburse the value of inputs they borrowed, and we buy up to 70%. They reimburse these inputs in grain, by the way, and we buy up to 70% of the rest of their harvest. We then make money by selling their harvest to large agribusinesses across 3 market segments: in the beer industry, in the baby food manufacturing industry, and in the poultry feed industry. So to date, we've served just about 1,500 farmers. We've seen their yields grow from under 2 tons per hectare to almost 5 tons per hectare. So, and as a result of that, their incomes have tripled from under $500 per hectare to almost $1,000 per hectare. So we're really seeing a lot of change and impact along the way, but this has not come without significant challenges. And I'd love to expand on that, but I don't know how I'm doing on time. Am I doing okay? Okay. Yeah, so we've had so many challenges dealing with pivoting on the quantity and quality aspect. We had to relocate from a crisis zone to another. But one thing I always want to say is that whether you're a male or a female, if you're passionate about something and you really have a purpose as to why you do it, you should continue going out there and focusing on how you could pivot and tweak your model to ensure that you achieve your objective. And ultimately, the biggest challenge we face is that we are in an environment that has a very limited ecosystem of impact funders or gender-focused funders. So for those of you out there who work in that ecosystem, this is something that you could help us achieve by figuring out how we can connect the dots and have more funders and network enablers in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Manka, for that incredible story. By virtue of your work, farmers are seeing their incomes triple. This is incredible, working under quite difficult conditions many a time. And importantly, and I would like to say this, that our founders here today have sustainable business models. These are investment ready, and we would be delighted if amongst our ecosystem here that there are investors or connections to investors who are ready and willing to invest in these incredible businesses. Thank you, Manka. Our next founder is 2020 fellow Adriana from Mexico. Adriana is the founder of Tierra de Monte, which manufactures agricultural products. These products renew biodiversity and soil fertility. They fortify and protect crops and empower the farmers who use them. Adriana, over to you.
Thank you so much to everyone. Thank you, Anino, for the introduction. And I'm so honored and touched and also a little bit scared of being here. So I was asked, who am I and about my entrepreneurial journey. So I would start by saying that I am a woman, I am a mother, I'm a scientist, and I am the proud descendant of my indigenous grandmothers. I would describe myself as a minority within a minority, making my way in conventionally misogynistic sectors, such as biotech and agriculture. My entrepreneurial journey began because my daughter was born allergic to many food and substances, including agrochemicals, but on many occasions I could not afford organic food. So in those early years, every mealtime was actually a moment of fear. And that gave me the final push to start my company. However, I can see that who I am and where I come from gave me the perspective, the opportunities, but also the responsibility to do something to alleviate a pain that I saw around me, a pain that started in farms and end up in all of our tables. That's soil fertility loss, poisoning by pesticides, water contamination, pest resistance, lack of access to technology, and a financial system that excludes the rural dwellers are both the cause and the consequence of a destructive and inefficient food production system. Modern agriculture is the main consumer of fresh water. It's one of the main sources of greenhouse gases, the principal driver of land use change, and although 1/3 of the population worldwide works in agriculture, around 8,000 million people are unnourished. And if you're a rural worker, especially if you're a woman rural worker, it's very likely that you can't even afford the food that you produce with your own hands. And all of this is magnified if you're, as Chiara and Manka point out, a woman. So what we did in Tierra de Monte was to develop these regenerative products that are based on good fungi and bacteria that heal and protect the soil. And we partner with with local change makers that are the commercial links, the field researchers, and the technical advisors for the agriculturers. So the rural families can have better incomes and better livelihoods in their land, growing food that is healthy, safe, and sustainable for everyone. So of course, this journey has challenge, and I face the ones that I surely share with lots of my female scientists and entrepreneur colleagues. In general, women, we have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Our professionalism is measured not only by our performance and results, but also by our looks, our color, our relationships, and the decisions of our bodies. I still find many farmers and agriculture professionals that feels uncomfortable of being addressed by a woman, especially one that have to take care of their children in work. I also carry self-inflicted burdens, the ones that, although I know that are not correct, are imprinted by centuries of education. The guilt of not spending enough time with my kids, of not having a perfectly clean home, of not studying enough, of not spending enough hours in the lab, of not having a PhD, and so on, and so on, and so on. But on the bright side, however, I think I'm working as an individual, leading in empathy, responsibility, kindness, and care for everyone, but especially, well, not especially, but also to myself. But more important, as a collective, I think women are working towards alleviating these pains for us and for the ones to come, striving, building our tribes, building spaces like this one and the ones that I found in Cartier Women's Initiative, to make new rules, to make mistakes, to be vulnerable, and to get help to become the best version of ourselves, a version that is critic, but also that can raise our voice in the name of those who cannot do it, as our dear colleague just said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adriana, for that wonderful story, and of course with women at the heart of it, and also the underserved at the heart of it, just as in Manka's case. Now, just a quick reminder to make sure that we get in, all the stories, ask our speakers just to maintain the 4 minutes. And next on the line on our list is Sofie from Denmark. Sofie is a 2020 fellow, The company Hive Online helps underserved micro businesses to obtain credit. Hive Online enables these businesses to access markets that they wouldn't normally be able to reach by creating a trust history based on facts and business actions. Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Anino, and thank you, Cartier, thank you, Change Now, for inviting me to this stellar group of women. It's really amazing to be here. So yeah, I'm Sophie, CEO of Hive Online, and we are, as Nina says, building better economies for communities of financially excluded entrepreneurs, mostly in sub-Saharan Africa, not entirely. But yeah, a little bit of background about myself. Like the others, my business is deeply personal. I come from a background where I was surrounded by small business owners. My pa ran a business out of our front room. I didn't do too well at school, didn't go to university, so I took a secretarial course, ended up in publishing, and then set up my first business, completely insane. Didn't know what I was doing, it didn't go too well, but I started learning about computers because I had computers, and I taught myself programming because they needed to communicate, and somehow or other ended up in Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture. And then ended up in banking. So I was, unlike most of my colleagues in banking, the one who had no education and no specific knowledge about banking. But that led to a career in 7 other international banks, first in technology and later in business transformation. Along the way, I taught my way into a master's degree, still without a bachelor's degree. And then while I was at Citi, I was responsible for about 54 countries with delivering, first of all, infrastructure and then business transformation. And 13 of those countries were in Africa. And that was when I saw firsthand how difficult it was for banks to reach rural customers and how banking products just don't suit their rural entrepreneurs at all. And also began to really understand the plight of women entrepreneurs in Africa, where 66% of people don't have access to formal financial services, and most of those are women. They're more likely to lack education, especially Indigenous women, and being confined to their villages is something we see a lot because of logistical challenges, getting access to electricity, running water, decent roads, all of these things. But what I saw everywhere is these women are building businesses because it's a matter of survival. And especially now with COVID restricting economic growth across Africa and everywhere else. And now even governments are trying to stimulate growth through encouraging lending, but the financial infrastructure is just not there because it's so difficult. And selling goods, which we've heard about a lot, was hard enough already, and it's now even harder because of these additional logistical challenges. So I was helping banks restructure to be more customer focused and replacing technology, but I eventually realized that banks were never going to be able to support businesses like these because it just cost them too much. And then along came blockchain technology, and I am an uber geek these days, even though I'm not really educated in that. And I saw the opportunity to change the way these economies work. Blockchain allows people to store value without the need for a bank account, and allows for tiny transactions that would be unaffordable for banks to manage. But more than that, it also allows for tamper-proof records that people can trust to validate that something's really happened. And we've combined this with existing social structures like savings groups and cooperatives so that rural African communities can leverage their strong social bonds and use those to get the things they need to build their businesses. So we digitize the accounting, management, forecasting, all of this stuff, which gives groups and individuals the history to prove they're reliable to lenders and forecast for buyers to give them confidence that the groups will deliver. And it rewards collaborative behavior, female behavior. So it helps make markets more efficient. And because buyers can have confidence, they can also pass that confidence up the value chain, reducing the cost of borrowing. We're also building in quality measures, so helping to build more market access and more export markets for these women producers and growers. And also, we are a team of immigrants, not just myself, but we're all but one of us is immigrant, over half of us are women. So it takes a team like that to really build for the customers that we're supporting. Diverse teams make diverse technology for diverse customers, and that's where we're from. So thank you very much. I think I've run out of time.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you for the work you do. Access to credit is a major barrier to smaller businesses and particularly micro enterprises. And thank you very much for your work on inclusion, just like the ladies before us. Our fourth speaker is our 2020 fellow, Nadia from Egypt. Nadia is the founder of 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗐𝗏. 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗐𝗏 is an all-inclusive platform supporting Egyptian mothers financially, physically, emotionally, and intellectually, both online and in person. Over to you, Nadia.
Hi, everyone. I'm very delighted and honored to be here. So my story started out when I became a mom. I used to be a brand manager at Procter & Gamble for some time. And then when I gave birth to my son, I was just lying there in my questions with no one to ask. We don't have any credible support platforms here in Egypt for moms. I asked my mom what to do with my baby because I'm an only child. She couldn't remember anything. I asked my friends, they were all in the partying mode and none of them had kids. So I was extremely lost. And this is when the discontinuous shift happened. I resigned from my job the day I gave birth and I started 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗙 the same day from my hospital bed. What I did was I created the Facebook group and I started inviting all the doctors and experts I know to give credible answers to moms instantly free of charge from their phone. And this started to allow moms to enjoy credible answers to their questions, access to other moms, gaining positivity and togetherness. And it started growing and growing. And in just 1 month, we've had over 3,000 volunteers from top-notch doctors and experts in our country supporting moms every single day. And then I realized, okay, those moms need to go visit those doctors. And, as you all know, when you have a child, your budget skyrockets, so much expenses. So I started creating a free of charge discount card and app for all the moms here in Egypt to enjoy fixed discounts all year long on their doctor visits, on their maternity hospitals, on their transportation, real estate, basically everything a mom needs is on this discount card. And this allowed moms to save money, time, and effort, and also afford a better quality of life for their children. And then I realized, okay, so moms are now supported mentally and financially. What about physically? I wanted to get back in shape after giving birth. I went to gyms. I didn't know where to leave my baby. Everyone there looked so different than what I looked like. They look at my baby like he was an alien. I was like, where do moms work out? There was nothing here in Egypt. So I started the first fitness and nutrition program for moms here in Egypt, powered by free babysitting services and kids activities for babies as young as 40 days old. And this started growing and growing, and we've transformed over 32,000 women physically and emotionally here in Egypt across our 3 on-ground facilities. So moms started becoming more confident. They started getting all those happy endorphins and getting their body back in shape. And then I thought to myself, okay, so moms now are physically supported. What about intellectual support? How do they learn motherhood? How do they master motherhood? So we started the first content portal here in Egypt in both English and Arabic for moms, where they start learning through advertorials, listicles, reviews, testimonials, and everything they need as moms. So this allowed us to give moms a super all-inclusive support platform. And then our latest baby was the Cloud by 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗙, which is the first social club here in Egypt for moms, where they can come, they can work out, they can drink their coffee, they can just work, doze off, all supported with live streaming of their little ones wherever they are inside, while we take good care of them. And this allowed us today to serve and support an average of 16 million moms across Cairo and Alexandria inside of Egypt. And we're also a female-based company of over 120 amazing women serving moms. And we believe the best people to serve moms would be women. We understand them. We give our 100% for them. So that's basically 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗙𝗏, which translates into peace of mind for Egyptian moms. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadia, for the way in which you've supported moms and the way in which you haven't limited your support and really looking at the challenges moms face holistically. Thank you very much for that. So our next story is from Dora, okay? I'm sorry, just give me a minute here, okay. Now, Dora is from Sweden, and her company, 𝗦𝗽𝗫𝗙𝗦𝗀𝗙, is creating a community of mobile-first tools that make programming fun and relevant for teenage girls. Looking forward to hearing your story.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction and yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's really inspiring to hear everyone's story. I've been actually quite sick the past week and I'm just so happy to have this as my first call back and getting some inspiration. So yes, my name is Dora and I am living in Sweden. This is where I started my company. I'm originally from Hungary. And I have a background in science and technology. And from the earliest days in university, I was really preoccupied with the fact that there didn't seem to be a lot of women in my science classes. And especially the higher you got in sort of the chain, my professors were never female. And then once I got into tech and worked as a developer, this trend even just continued and got worse. And so the reason why I thought it was sort of a problem that we didn't have a lot of women in tech is because I really believe that technology is our future. I think of technology as this extremely powerful tool to solve problems, to make a change. And so sort of logically follows if then women are not equally involved in tech, we also don't have an equal chance to shape the future and to create with technology. And that's what I sort of set out to change. And so the work I do with 𝗍𝗫𝗍 started out of a user-centered design research process. I had a master's degree in human-computer interaction, so it's all about working together with end users. And I invited teenage girls and started to co-create different product ideas of things that they could use to learn coding with. And so some things I understood about teenagers was that they really love their phones. They also like to be creative and express themselves and like to be social. And so that's how we arrived to our current solution. So I actually have an 𝗍𝗫𝗍 here. This is a physical gadget that we have. Some people call it like a code your own Tamagotchi. And you can see there's a really cool 3D female sign going around on the 𝗍𝗫𝗍, which you can also see on the app here. And this was created with Python code by one of our 14-year-old coders. So I'm extremely proud of her. And so what happens with our solution is essentially a easy to get started with platform to learn to code. Our users can download the 𝗍𝗫𝗍𝗍 app where they start coding in Python, which is a real programming language. And they can continue creating, sharing their coding projects, commenting on other users' projects, and then also upload it to their accessory. So this way we are removing a barrier to get started by bringing it to the phone, but also making it sort of naturally fit into the everyday life of our end users. And so it's been a really exciting journey to work on 𝗍𝗫𝗍𝗍. And I think the more we get forward, sort of the more excited I am about the potential that we really have to make a difference by equipping and empowering girls with these coding superpowers. And so it's sort of like, as a joke, but not a joke, I often talk about how maybe 10 years from now with my company 𝗍𝗫𝗍𝗍, we would like to set up our own fund and we will start investing in all those tech companies that will be started by the girls who are learning to code on our own platform now. And really, I think this just like talks to what everyone else here is saying is just there's so much change that we can make by bringing diversity among the creators of technologies and among the people who get to have a say in how we are solving our future's problems. So I'm really excited to have heard from all of you, and thank you again for having me in this amazing group.
Wow, thank you, Dora, and thank you for bringing up the issue of girls, very important, youth, and also technology. I know that our founders before, all of them use technology, but actually bringing it out and speaking about it. And we sort of move into the arena now of technology here. And we have our next speaker who's going to tell us. Now we're talking about really emerging technology and cutting edge technology. So we have our 2020 fellow, Dr. Rasha Radhi, who is here with us from Egypt. And her company, Shifa, has created an AI-powered GPS-enabled digital platform. And this platform enables patients with chronic illnesses to schedule and refill their repeat prescriptions, irrespective of their location or of their income. Rasha?
Hi, I'm Dr. Rasha Radhi. I'm the co-founder and COO of Shifa. Actually, I'm lecturer of pediatrics at Cairo University, who decided to get out of my comfort zone and into the entrepreneurship world, which is like German to me, completely new. And the reason for that is that I discovered what's the point of seeing my patient, examining him, prescribing a medication if I know that in the follow-up he will not be able to get his medication. So what's the point of following up with my patients if they don't get their prescriptions regularly? However, I have to admit that a problem doesn't really feel like a problem until it hits home. In 2017, my friend and co-founder, actually, 𝗽𝗍𝗗𝗏, was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Surprisingly, the surgery was the easy part. The problem was for her to get her lifelong daily meds regularly afterwards. Sometimes she could not find it on time. Sometimes she may get the wrong medicine when ordered over the phone. She forget just to take her medicine. So during her isolation for radiotherapy, she had this idea, and we started to work on it. What we did is that we have built 2 mobile apps connecting patient and pharmacy. In 3 simple steps, the patient upload the prescription, choose method of payment, submit the prescription to be directed to the nearest pharmacy as per the GPS location. On the other side, the pharmacy gets notified of a new prescription, review it, validate it if they need to, prepare it, and deliver. In the occasion that the pharmacy doesn't have what the patient needs, the prescription is automatically forwarded to the next pharmacy and so on until a pharmacy accepts, prepare, and deliver hassle-free. Chronic patients can get to schedule 30 days worth of dosage together with 2 services, the dosage reminders and the shortage alert, in order to help them bypass the unexpected shortage in the market of the different medications. So that's why we have built such a solution. Also, our service extend to the non-prescriptions and the non-pharmaceuticals, anything that's found in the pharmacy. We have built the first Arabic-speaking pharmaceutical blog to help educate the public about the sound use of medications. This to empower the patients. And as of January 2021, we have passed the mark of 1.6 million active users monthly across all our platforms. Also, we have 24/7 support managed by licensed pharmacists offering free pharmaceutical consultations. And throughout 2020, we have responded to more than 1.6 million free pharmaceutical consultations, not only from Egypt, but across more than 15 Arabic-speaking countries in the MENA region. Also, for the dosage reminders to help chronic patients never miss a dose. This directly impacts the compliance because we directly help with the accessibility and the affordability of the medication, which are key for better compliance and eventually better outcome. Since the MENA region has the highest instance globally for chronic illnesses as per the WHO, which is why we also have launched our newest solution, the 𝗪𝗪 Prime, to help chronic patients cut out-of-pocket costs. We have been operational since April 2018. Our team has grown from only 4 employees to more than 69 employees now, almost 54% of which are females, actually. We are helping and working on empowering chronic patients in Egypt and across the MENA region, especially with our emerging expansion plans beyond Egypt. Hopefully, we will help to tackle this important issue with chronic patients across the MENA region entirely, and Africa, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rasha. We've heard some pretty amazing stories from our impact-driven entrepreneurs. And now we turn to questions. And apologies to our audience if we don't have time to answer all of them. We just have time for 2 questions. So I'll read one of the questions coming to me and coming to us here, and we'll ask one of our founders to answer. So the question is this: who has been one of the most influential role models for you? Okay, who has been one of the most influential role models for you? We don't have much time, so we're just going to pick one of our founders to answer the question. And randomly, because I just see you there, Adriana, do you have an answer for us?
Yes, I have actually 2. One is Rosalind Franklin, the precursor of the discovery of the DNA, and the other is all my lineage of grandmothers, great-grandmothers.
Wow, thank you.
Anino, I think you're muted.
My apologies. Thank you. Okay, so the question again is this. What advice would you give to someone who wants to set up an impact project? Okay, what advice would you give to someone who wants to set up an impact project? So I'll ask one of our founders now. Anybody would like to contribute to this one in just 30 seconds, if you can? What advice would you give to somebody? Okay, Dr. Asha?
Well, first, you need to believe in the problem, not in the solution. If you want to have an impact, focus on the problem, not on the solution you're building. If you fall in love with your solution, you will not be able to pivot to meet the need. So always put the problem first. If you do that, you will find some challenges. You will be able to be resilient and pivot flexibly around it to meet the problem. You have to know how to articulate the impact and how to measure the impact. You need to put it in numbers. If you cannot put it in numbers, then you are misassessing the problem that you are trying to solve. You need to put it in numbers. This is very important. For example, how many patients helped? How much money have they saved because of my service? How many school days they have added to their school days? That helps directly their school achievement if it's a patient with a kid and stuff like that. It has to be in number. In order to be able to make an impact, you need to be able to measure it, and you need to focus on the problem, not on the solution that you're building.
Thank you, Dr. Asha. Thank you, Dr. Asha. And really, that was a perfect answer. Focus on the problem, and it should be measurable. The impact should be measurable. Okay. Now, thank you very much. That's all. We don't have any more time for any more questions. That's all we have time for. But I'd like to say a big thank you to our fellows for being here with us, to sharing your stories with us, and to Change Now for giving the opportunity to 𝗪𝗪 Women's Initiative founders to be with us here, and for us to showcase a few of our outstanding entrepreneurs. Please check on the fellows' profiles on our website. Do follow us on social media, on all our channels, and please join us in supporting women and impact entrepreneurs. Thank you again, everybody, and it's goodbye from us. Thank you.